I was flat on my back, staring at the ceiling, my body heavy and useless. The hum of the hospital air conditioner was the only sound in the room. My phone buzzed on the table beside me, and for a moment, I debated ignoring it. Every movement hurt, even the small stretch to grab it. But when I saw the notification, my blood ran cold. It was a new Instagram story from my MOM. I swiped it open and froze. There she was, in a wide-brimmed sun hat, standing on a balcony overlooking sparkling blue water. My dad stood beside her, a cocktail in hand, both of them laughing. In the background, the caption read, "Living the dream in Santorini. Luxury life." My thumb hovered over the screen. I could barely comprehend what I was looking at. Just last week, they'd told me money was tight because of my surgery bills. They'd promised to take care of me, to help me through my recovery, to be there, their exact words. But instead, they were across the world, on my dime, and I mean that literally. The money they'd spent, those 5-star hotels, the champagne brunches, the yacht photos, it was mine. I'd been saving it for years. My emergency fund. The one thing standing between me and financial disaster if anything went wrong, and now I was immobilized in a hospital bed after spinal surgery, while my parents were sipping mojitos in Greece. People always tell you that family is supposed to be your safety net, but no one tells you that sometimes the people you trust most will be the ones who cut the net and watch you fall. Before I get into the how and why of what happened next, I need you to understand something. This wasn't just about money. It was about years of manipulation, guilt tripping, and the quiet way some parents teach you that your needs will always come second to theirs. I was the good daughter, the reliable one, the one who answered every call, who paid for every emergency, who rearranged her own life to solve their problems. And for years, I told myself it was love. That's what good kids do, right? But when I saw those vacation photos, something inside me snapped. This was no accident, no misunderstanding. It was a choice they made to leave me behind, to spend my savings, to not even check if I was okay. And that's when I decided, if they could cut me out of their vacation, I could cut them out of my life. That day was the beginning of the end for our relationship and the start of the kind of revenge you don't post on Instagram. I grew up in a house where love was conditional. It wasn't written on the walls or spoken outright, but I learned early that affection was something you earned with obedience, with favors, with self-sacrifice. My parents weren't poor, but they acted like they were. They had a decent home, stable jobs, and plenty of treat-yourself moments, but only for themselves. My MOM loved designer handbags. My dad, the latest gadgets, shiny new fishing gear, even a motorcycle once. When I was a kid, if I asked for something, like a new pair of sneakers or help paying for a school trip, the answer was always, "Money doesn't grow on trees, sweetheart." But if my MOM wanted a new Louis Vuitton, somehow it sprouted overnight. By the time I was 12, I was doing little jobs to earn my own spending money, babysitting, mowing lawns, even tutoring younger kids. And as I got older, my role in the family shifted in a way I didn't even question. I started contributing. At first, it was small, buying groceries if I had extra cash. Then it became covering the electric bill until Dad's bonus came in. Then paying for my brother's textbooks because Mom's credit card was maxed out. They called it helping the family. What it really was them realizing they could lean on me without ever leaning back. When I turned 21, I landed my first real job, a full-time office position with decent pay. I was proud. I felt like I was finally getting ahead. And for a short time, I did. I saved up, opened my own account, and even started a little emergency fund. But my parents, they noticed. They started making comments about how lucky I was, how I had no real responsibilities yet. The irony wasn't lost on me. My rent, utilities, car payments, groceries, those were apparently not real responsibilities. Over the years, my financial help to them went from occasional to constant. I can't count how many emergencies popped up. Some were legitimate, like when my dad needed dental surgery, but others, let's just say, I wasn't convinced that Mom's urgent bar membership renewal was life or death. Still, I paid every time, because that's what good daughters do. Right. Fast forward to last year. I'd built my savings up to a solid cushion, about enough to live on for a year if I ever lost my job. I was proud of that. It felt like a safety blanket. I'd sewn stitch by stitch. Then the accident happened. A freak slip on an icy step outside my office building. I landed wrong, so wrong that I felt something snap in my lower back. The pain was immediate and merciless. To the hospital, they told me I'd herniated 2 discs and pinched a nerve. Surgery wasn't optional and recovery would be long. 6 months, minimum. When I told my parents, they acted concerned. Mom even cried. Dad promised, "Don't you worry, we'll take care of you." I believed them. I let my guard down. And while I lay there, groggy from pain meds, filling out hospital forms, my mom asked for my banking info. She said it was so she could handle the bills while I was out of commission. I didn't think twice. I wish I had. The first 2 weeks after my surgery were a blur. Between the pain, the muscle spasms, and the cocktail of painkillers and muscle relaxants, I spent most of my time drifting in and out of shallow, restless sleep. My mom was around in the beginning, sort of. She'd stop by for a few hours, make herself coffee in my kitchen, and sit scrolling on her phone while I tried to get comfortable. My dad would swing by occasionally, but usually just to pick her up. They weren't bad to me during those days, but they weren't exactly present either. Still, I told myself they were doing their best. One morning, about 2.5 weeks in, I woke up to my phone buzzing with low balance alerts from my bank. I remember blinking at the screen, thinking it had to be some mistake. I had over $18,000 in that account just before surgery. I opened my banking app and nearly dropped the phone. The balance, 26,418. My chest tightened. I scrolled through the transaction history, my heart pounding harder with each line. Wire transfers, large withdrawals, international charges, hotel bookings, fine dining receipts. It didn't even look like my account anymore. It looked like someone had turned my savings into their personal vacation fund. The first name that came to mind wasn't a stranger or hacker, it was my mom. I remembered handing over my banking details in the hospital. I'd been too groggy to even think about setting spending limits or removing my savings account from the linked card. I called her immediately. It rang 4 times before she picked up, sounding cheerful, almost giddy. "Hey sweetie, how are you feeling?" I skipped the small talk. "Where's my money, mom?" There was a pause. A tiny one, just long enough for me to know she was caught off guard. "What do you mean?" "I mean, my savings account. The one with $18,000 in it 2 weeks ago. Now it's got 264. I see the withdrawals." I see the hotel names. She exhaled into the phone, that long, performative sigh she always used when she wanted to make me feel unreasonable. Oh, honey, we just thought. You know, after everything with your surgery, we needed a little break. It's been stressful for us too. I gripped the phone so tight my knuckles ached. You thought it was okay to take my money without asking, while I'm literally stuck in bed. She didn't flinch. It's not like you're using it, and we'll pay you back when we can. When we can. I knew exactly what that meant. Never. I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. I opened Instagram, desperate to confirm this was real and not just some twisted misunderstanding. And there it was, the post that would burn into my memory. My mom in a flowing white dress, my dad in a linen shirt, both holding champagne glasses on a balcony in Santorini. Caption: finally taking some time for us. Living the dream. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But more than anything, I wanted to remember that feeling, because I knew I'd need it later. The moment I saw that champagne photo, something inside me snapped. I wasn't just angry, I was humiliated. I had trusted them with everything. My health, my home, my finances. And they had taken that trust, wrung it dry and tossed it aside like it was nothing. I called again. This time, my dad answered. His voice was casual, as if I'd just interrupted him between golf swings. Hey, kiddo. How's the back? I didn't even respond to the question. Dad, I want my money back now. He chuckled. Actually chuckled. Whoa, slow down. Your mother already explained it's just a temporary thing. We'll sort it out. Temporary? You took $18,000, Dad, without asking. That's not temporary. That's theft. His tone hardened. Watch your words. We're your parents. We've done everything for you. Don't act like we're strangers robbing you on the street. That's when I realized what was happening. They weren't going to apologize. They weren't going to feel guilty. They were going to make me the bad guy. The next few days were a blur of infuriating phone calls. My mom kept saying, "You can't put a price on everything we've done for you, and it's not like you're married with kids. You don't need all that money right now." She even threw in the guilt dagger. Honestly, you sound so ungrateful. We've been running around, making sure you have groceries, checking in on you. And you're upset about a little vacation. A little vacation. The receipts in my banking app told a different story. 5-star hotels, yacht rentals, $1,000 dinners. But the thing about being gaslit is, it works on you in the moment. I actually caught myself wondering if I was being selfish, if maybe I should let it go because they were my parents. And then, one night, I woke up from a painkiller haze to a text from my cousin. It was a photo of my parents at some luxury boutique, holding shopping bags and posing like influencers. My cousin's caption: "Your folks are living it up out here. You joinin' them soon?" That was the final push I needed. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't selfish. I was being robbed, manipulated, and mocked all at once. I decided then and there that if they could justify taking everything from me without asking, I could justify taking something from them. Access to me, my life, and my money. But first, I needed to recover enough to stand on my own. Literally, recovery from spinal surgery isn't glamorous. It's not those movie scenes where the patient walks out of the hospital with perfect hair and a brave smile. It's ugly. It's slow. It's lying awake at AM because your back spasms so violently you can't even breathe right. But for me, The worst pain wasn't in my spine, it was in my chest. Every time I thought about my parents laughing in the sun while I was trapped in bed, I felt that same sharp twist inside me. And I decided to use that feeling as fuel. The first step was simple: close every door they had into my life. While I was still bedbound, I called my bank. I explained the situation in careful, measured tones. I didn't even need to embellish. The woman on the other end listened, then lowered her voice. "Ma'am, I can see exactly what you're talking about here. I'm flagging these transactions and removing all linked cards and access permissions." Within an hour, my parents' access to my accounts was gone. My paychecks were rerouted to a brand new account they didn't know existed. Next, I tackled my will and legal paperwork. Not because I thought I'd die, but because I realized my parents were the next of kin on nearly everything. My health directive, my life insurance beneficiary, even my apartment emergency contact, all of it pointed to them. That changed. By the end of the week, I'd named my best friend, Lena, as my emergency contact and primary beneficiary. Someone who had actually shown up for me during my recovery. Meanwhile, I started building a paper trail. Screenshots of the Instagram posts, bank statements, text messages, the smug boutique photo from my cousin. Every little detail went into a neatly organized folder on my laptop labeled records, because I knew if this ever needed to go legal, I'd be ready. The last piece of my plan was the most important: my exit. I didn't just want to cut them off financially, I wanted to remove myself from their reach entirely. That meant getting stronger, getting back to work, and moving somewhere they couldn't just show up unannounced. Every painful stretch in physical therapy became a step toward freedom. Every walk down the hallway without my walker was a reminder: I am getting back up. And when I do, I'm gone. But here's the thing about making a clean break from toxic people: they can sense it. Even before you've made your move, they start to sniff out the change in the air. And my parents, they weren't going to let me go without a fight. It started with little things: a text from my mom asking if I'd thought about putting the bank account back the way it was, a call from my dad pretending to check in on my recovery, but somehow steering the conversation toward how uncomfortable it was to have their vacation photos taken out of context. They weren't apologizing. They were testing the waters, trying to see if guilt or pressure would make me slip. About a month into my recovery, when I could finally hobble short distances without the walker, they showed up unannounced. I'd just finished a PT session and was lying on the couch, exhausted, when I heard the front door unlock. They still had a spare key, one I'd stupidly forgotten about. "Surprise," my mom sang, stepping inside with a bakery box. My dad followed with a bag of groceries, wearing his best "see how helpful we are" smile. I sat up slowly, my back stiff. "What are you doing here?" "We thought we'd spend the day with you," my mom said, setting the box on the coffee table like it was a peace offering. "We brought your favorite lemon cake." On the surface, it looked sweet. But then my dad dropped his grocery bag on the counter and said, too casually, "Hey, I noticed when I went to pay for the cake this morning our card and the joint account got declined. Did something happen?" I stared at him. "Something happened?" "Yes, I'd removed them from my account after they emptied it. I closed it," I said flatly. My mom's smile faltered. "You what?" "I closed the joint account. And I opened a new one. One that's mine." The room went quiet for a second. Then my dad let out a short laugh, the kind that says you're overreacting. "Come on, kiddo, Don't be dramatic. That account was for all of us. No, I said, my voice sharper now. That account was mine. You used it like it was yours. That's over. My mom's tone changed in an instant, the sweetness gone, replaced with cold steel. After everything we've done for you. This is how you treat us? You wouldn't even have that money if we hadn't raised you. I almost laughed. Raised me? Sure. But they hadn't saved for my college. They hadn't helped me get my first apartment. They hadn't bought me a single car or paid a single medical bill. Everything I had, I'd worked for myself. You didn't give me that money, I said quietly. You stole it, and I'm not letting you do it again. They left not long after. But the silence that followed was heavy. I knew they were plotting their next move, and I was ready. A few weeks later, my aunt called. She was hosting a family barbecue and insisted I come. It'll be good for you to get out, she said. Everyone's been worried about you. I almost declined. My parents would be there, and the thought of sitting across a picnic table from them made my skin crawl. But then, I realized something. This could be an opportunity. See, up until now, everything between us had been private. They could tell their version of the story to relatives, make themselves the victims, and I'd have no voice in the matter. But if I showed up calm, steady, with proof, I could take that narrative away from them in front of everyone. When I arrived, it was clear my parents had been working the crowd. They were surrounded by relatives, shaking their heads sadly, telling some story I couldn't hear. My mom spotted me and plastered on her fake warm smile. Sweetheart, we didn't think you'd make it. I smiled back, the kind of smile you give someone when you've already decided the conversation is going to be a one-way ticket to their regret. We made small talk until my aunt called everyone over to the big table. Once the food was served and the hum of conversation filled the air, my dad took his shot. So, he said, raising his voice lightly, we were just telling everyone about how hard it's been. You know, with the surgery and all. And how we've been helping out financially. That was it. That was my cue. I set down my fork. That's interesting, I said. Because from my perspective, it's been the opposite. The table went quiet. My cousin raised an eyebrow. My aunt froze mid-bite. I continued, keeping my tone even. While I was recovering from surgery, unable to work, my parents emptied my savings account $18,000 and spent it on a luxury vacation. I found out when I saw their yacht photos online. A few jaws literally dropped. My mom laughed nervously. That's not what happened. I pulled my phone from my bag and tapped open the folder I'd been curating for weeks. Bank statements, screenshots, timestamps, all neatly organized. I slid it across the table toward my aunt. It's exactly what happened. And I have proof. The murmurs started almost immediately. My dad's face flushed deep red. My mom tried to snatch the phone, but my aunt held it tight, scrolling with a grim expression. This is a lot, my aunt said finally, looking between them. Did you really do this? My parents didn't answer. Not really. They stammered something about misunderstandings and temporary loans, but the damage was done. For the first time, the rest of the family saw them for who they really were. When I left that barbecue, I didn't just feel lighter, I felt free. I'd ripped the mask off in front of everyone they cared about impressing, but I wasn't finished. Exposing them was satisfying, yes. But I still had one last card to play, a move that would make sure they could never touch my life, my money, or my peace again. After the barbecue, things went quiet. Not the good kind of quiet, more like the eerie calm before a storm. I knew my parents were humiliated, and humiliation is dangerous when it comes to people like them. Sure enough, 3 days later, I got a long text from my mom. It started with fake concern. "We're worried about you. This hostility isn't healthy." Then it pivoted to guilt tripping. "We've done everything for you since the day you were born. You owe us at least some respect." And finally, it slid into a thinly veiled threat. "If you keep telling people lies, we'll have to defend ourselves. You're not the only one who can make things public." That was it. That was the confirmation I needed. They weren't sorry. They weren't going to change. They were going to keep using me unless I shut the door completely. So I did. Step 1. I changed my phone number. The moment it was active, I blocked them on the old one. No warning. No explanation. Step 2. I moved. My lease was up in 2 months, and I found a small apartment in a different city. My new address went to exactly 3 people, none of them blood relatives. Step 3. I legally severed ties. I met with a lawyer and updated every possible document from my emergency contact forms to my power of attorney. I also had my lawyer send a certified letter to my parents stating that they were no longer authorized to act on my behalf in any capacity. The hardest part wasn't the logistics. It was sitting in my half-packed apartment late at night, remembering birthday mornings when my mom would bring pancakes to my bed, or afternoons when my dad helped me ride a bike without training wheels. But then I'd remember the look on their faces when I confronted them, not shame, not regret, just irritation, that I'd made it harder for them to get what they wanted. And every time I pictured that, the ache in my chest faded a little more. The day I left, I didn't tell them. I drove out of town with my car full of boxes, the road stretching ahead like an unrolled ribbon. I had no idea what my life would look like next, only that it would be my daughter as the city skyline disappeared in my rearview mirror. I whispered to myself, "They'll never take from me again," and that was the end. It's been a year since I closed that chapter of my life. Sometimes I catch myself wondering if they ever regret what they did. Not because I want them back, but because part of me still hopes they're capable of remorse. The truth, I'll never know. And I've learned that I don't need to. Cutting off your parents isn't something you plan for as a kid. No one dreams about building a life that doesn't include them. But family isn't defined by DNA, it's defined by love, trust, and respect. And when those things are gone, what's left isn't family. It's just people you happen to be related to. I used to think I was being selfish for protecting myself. Now I know setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's survival. Since then, I've rebuilt my savings from zero. I found friends who feel more like family than my own ever did. And every dollar I spend, every decision I make is mine. Alone. And no one is dipping into my accounts. No one is guilt-tripping me into helping them at my expense. No one is using my trust as their ATM. If you're watching this and you've been betrayed by the people who are supposed to protect you, I want you to hear me when I say you are not obligated to keep toxic people in your life, even if they're your parents. You get one life, and you deserve to live it without fear that the next betrayal is just around the corner. So, to my parent, wherever you are, I hope the tan lines from your luxury vacation were worth it. Because that trip cost you far more than $18,000. It cost you me, and that's a price you'll never be able to buy back. If you found this story powerful, share it with someone who needs to hear that they have the right to walk away. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell for more stories like this, stories about taking your power back. Because your peace of mind, that's priceless.